Good evening, and God bless all of you that are joining us in this conversation. We are in such an exciting time to be a part of all that the world is doing and understanding that women who lead are necessary in any time of leadership, a season, any leadership that is taking place, but most of all, because it is in our DNA to lead. We were created, amen, made in the image of one that leads and called to lead. This is the Deborah table. I want to announce to everyone the palm tree has gone digital. Yes, where Deborah would sit under the tree and they would come to her. Amen. She was visible for interaction, for conversation, and for personal as well as spiritual dialogue. We are here on this channel every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. to bring you to that space of the palm tree going digital and being accessible for divine wisdom and divine conversation. I am Dr. Andrea Williams, and I'm the host of this conversation and very excited about the time that we are in. When we think about the moment that we are in, and because we are August the 11th, and I did do an earlier special edition, the Deborah table with the eclipse, amen, in mind, because so many things are happening as we move through this eclipse and what it speaks to, but especially, and I was really excited about this, Dr. Dunn, and I'll be calling her up shortly, is that it was this generation of those that were born from 1950 to 954. This is your season to lead. And so I shared some things concerning that because it's always good to encourage women of every age. Now, again, it is the Deborah table. We do want you to pull up a chair, to have a seat. We want you, if you've already logged in, to go ahead and subscribe to this podcast, invite someone, and once the conversation is over, share it. We will also have an opportunity for those of you who have questions. We may be able to answer a couple of them as we close out this podcast. So we are on Facebook Live tonight, and we are also on our YouTube channel. And so we just invite you to log in, pull up a chair, have a seat. The Deborah table is open. It is my privilege and my honor to bring to the stage today Dr. Patrice Dunn. Amen. She's going to be sharing a few things with us, and we want to welcome her. We're excited about who she is, and just we're glad to have you, Dr. Dunn. I am so excited because I know what you bring to the table is going to change and impact many lives. And before you get started, I do want to just share a little bit about you, because sometimes just getting to know people that you are in communication with, and hopefully there are some things about you that you'll share that will empower and help other women. This is for any women in leadership and women that are called to lead. Also, we want to make sure that we get your personal information, or let's say business, so people can contact you and begin to say, hey, can you help me, or how can we do some things together? But Dr. Dunn is a licensed professional counselor. She is also a national certified counselor. Now, I had to look up a little bit of that to see what all of that meant, but she's got some good things going for her, and so she has 30 plus years across classroom teaching, school counseling, district leadership, private practice, and now university teaching. So I want everybody, when you get on here, just to give some love on that, because what it says is she understands that she cannot be one dimensional. That is, that one part of her does not work. So she's given space to all that she is. She has openly taken upon her into her 50s. She said to be fully comfortable being herself. She runs Become Her, helping women reconnect with who they were before the expectations piled on. And her research centers on the success of Black women and girls in predominantly white spaces. And so we want to make sure that we identify all that she is, lay hold of that, because helping you find yourself in spaces and places that you didn't know were available to you. So when we think about who she is, that she is fully licensed to practice independently. She's qualified to supervise other counselors and nationally certified. Somebody needs to she's put the work in. And so we're excited about the work that she's put in her I am. There is no one wealthier than I am. And she's went into herself to bring this to our table tonight. And we want to hear some things about her. And so, but she's certified. And so she has so many credentials, personally, spiritually, and relationally. And guess what? She's lived life.
Man.
She's not one of those that just kind of sat on the shelf and watch life go by. But she said, let me bring all that I am to the table. And so, Deborah Table, we welcome Dr. Dunn, Patrice Dunn today, and we want you to just enjoy this conversation with us. That she's going to tell us first of all a little bit about herself in her own words. I did her bio; she doesn't have to do that. We just want her to just talk about who she is. Dr. Dunn, please go ahead.
Well, thank you. And it's a pleasure to be here. I'm honored to be here. When I think about who I am, I would describe myself as kind of a late bloomer because I just recently kind of figured that out. You know how teenagers are going through identity crisis, trying to figure out who they are separate from their parents. I was in my 50s when I figured it out. The work that I was doing in my dissertation really helped me flesh out who I was, not who other
Mhm.
people needed me to be, not how I had been showing up for other people. And that's kind of a blessing and a curse that women have and find themselves with. So I find myself being an encourager. I think that's my God
Mhm.
given gift is to encourage people, to motivate them. I think one of the things I would describe myself as and actually enjoy doing is being a facilitator of tough conversations.
Okay.
I'm going to be that person that's going to say the thing everybody else was thinking, and then they all look like, "Did she just say that out loud?" Yes, she did. And I enjoy that, and I know how to facilitate those conversations without it being confrontational.
Yeah.
Because I think we learn and we grow and we can reaffirm what we believe when other people challenge us. If there's never a challenge, you have no reason to really dig your feet in and go 10 toes down on what you believe. Um, I have lived a lot of life,
Mhm.
and I believe that it's made me more resilient, courageous, and just I
Yeah.
walk with a boldness. And I love being who I am today.
Yeah, I like what you said that it is asking, being able to ask the hard question, being able to make some decisions and speak to those strong places. Because when you consider women in leadership, and I'm not sure about the path that you've had to walk, but those are one of the conversations that I still find to be hard for people to have. That there are still in the minds of so many people roles that women are called to have and to play rather than just their DNA. Why don't you say something about that you've had to walk through?
Man, I know my walk was not in vain, right? And
Mhm.
so, and I've often said, listen here, if this is for me, you could skip me on this. If this is going to
Yeah.
help me lead other people coming behind me, then I'm signing up and let's go. Um, I think it is hard for people
Mhm.
because we don't have the right voice in our ear.
Yeah.
We listen to the world, we listen to sometimes even people closest to us, and we are constantly in this internal battle to kind of become who other people need us
Come
to
on.
be. And
Yeah.
understand when that happens, that need serves them. That need
Yeah.
is not serving you. That's who they need you to be, not who you're called to be. And I tell people all the time, and I share this with my students, I've been practicing being me my whole life. I'm
Yeah.
actually an expert on me. So
Okay.
if I could just settle into that and really embrace all of those parts of me, then it's easier to bring people along behind me.
Yeah, I like that what you said that I embrace all of me. Now,
Mhm.
as you're talking about who you are, this is such a phenomenal time in the heavens, and everybody is planning for the eclipse. And we know the eclipse allows something that has been hidden for a season to be seen again.
Mhm.
So when you think about what's happening, when you think about who you are as when the moon moves over the sun, there's no glare left behind, nothing to hide. When people first meet you, what do you want them to see about you first?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, I would just say, and I say this all the time, I just want them to see my heart. And so I want them to ask me the questions that will show my heart. My favorite color is not that important, but do you see
Yeah.
my heart? Do you see how I care for people and how I facilitate those tough conversations? And so I think there is a skill, and I say this often, that I have learned to hear what people are not saying.
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's in their body language, it's in their how their eyes are shifting. But it really is just a gift to me that I can hear things. And then when I say it, they're like, how'd you know that? Right? I don't know how I know. I just know. Now let's talk about it. And so I really want them to, I don't want them to judge me at all, but if they have to, judge my heart. Because
Okay.
I'm flawed. I make mistakes like everybody else, but I want you to know every time I'm coming out and being in front of people, I'm coming at 110%. You're never going to get half of me. I will operate in excellence to the best of my ability. And hopefully that will work for those people that I'm presenting to.
Now, as a leader, I think it's important to hear something you said was that we're flawed, that sometimes people expect leaders to have it all together in every area of their lives. But that's just not real life. That's just not people. And that's definitely not women leading. But if we were looking at your life right now, what season are you actually living in right now? Underneath the title that people call you, but what season of your life are you living in? You talked about, I found myself even later in life. I understood who I am, but so what season of Patrice is showing up on the canvas that people can see right now?
A couple of things come to mind. One, I'm going to be my authentic self. And
Okay.
all I can do is be who I am for today, right? And I'm going to come. There was a time that I branded myself, and I was Patrice, the truth done. Um,
Yeah.
I am going to shoot it straight.
That's good. That's
I'm not
good. Yeah.
going to mince words. I tell people I don't have fluffy words. That's not in my vocabulary. I will shoot it straight. And if it offended you, I'll fix it, right? But I am going to tell you what I believe you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Um, and so I think the season I'm in is just walking in my complete authenticity.
Mm.
And I'm okay because I already know without a shadow of a doubt, I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but I am here to serve those people that I was called and equipped to serve.
Okay, I like that. Because a lot of times people try to reach everybody. And even when you look at the model of Christ in the scriptures, he didn't try to reach everybody. He said, he called those, he said, for those who are here, I'm calling those, it's for them to know, but not everybody was supposed to know. And I think something else when you were saying that, for a moment you were trying to brand yourself, but when we begin to brand us, we limit ourselves in one dimension. And what you said was, I'm not limiting me, so don't try to brand me because I'm not. Well, let me ask you this question.
Okay.
What part of your leadership took decades to become visible even to you?
That's a good question too. So I think a lot of times, um, natural leaders don't always recognize that's what they're doing. They're just doing what they do, right? It just
Mhm.
comes so naturally. It's not a thought. I don't have to go to a book um,
Mhm.
to get that. Um, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I might need to ask some people around me. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm gonna think on that for a minute.
Okay. Okay. So let's look at a couple things. One, share a little bit about your education, how you matriculated, and I think you just got your doctorate recently. I think,
A couple
and
years ago.
okay, and so I think this speaks to people that are on a journey, and we know that life happens, and sometimes I know for myself. I think I started college in 1970. I got my first degree in 1987. So
Hmm.
17 years later, I went back to began really being serious about getting that back. So I think helping people as a leader see that the journey is progressive, and so that's when I talk about decades or life experiences. But tell us a little about your journey. Tell us some of the things that you love to do. What are you good at? I know you used to run track and you're into sports. So let's hear a little bit about that side of Patrice as well.
I believe life is just a journey, and you can make choices along the way. I think one of the things that we do as women is compare our journey to each other,
Yeah.
and that's not how God intended it to be, right? But it's just in my DNA to be an educator,
Okay.
to be administrative. I got that fair and square. Um, I couldn't run from it if I wanted to. And so I've taught from fourth grade all the way through now graduate school. I too took 9 years to get through my undergrad degree. Um, and had a couple kids along the way, worked, didn't work, had to, earn money to go back to school. But it was just ingrained in me that this is how you have choices, in
That's
terms of
good.
what you want to make on this journey. How you want to, you get some choices along the journey, with education. And but my I've asked people recently, where did they see me being a motivator in life? And everybody that I have asked to date, has said it had something to do with track. I started running track when I was 6. And then by the time I got to middle school and high school, I was kind of a know-it-all. I'm like, I know more than the coach, right? And so I was coaching the junior high team. And one of my girlfriends called and she just cried like a baby, telling me how you motivated me. I wasn't the fastest person, but you were always cheering me on and you were
Yeah.
on the sidelines. But that is so symbolic for how I live my
Mhm.
life. I have students, every semester that I'm standing on the sidelines cheering them on. They're always so
Yeah.
afraid
Yeah.
they're going to fail a class. I said, not on my watch. We're not failing. We're going to do whatever it takes to get you across that stage, but you're not failing on my watch. And so
Mhm.
I think that journey, if you can see the transferable skills
Come on.
that
Yeah.
you've learned along the way. I tell people, when you have something tragic happen to you, or you've been in a bad relationship, let's take away what you learned. If you
That's
did
good.
nothing else, you should learn something about yourself. What you like, what you don't like, what you're going to put up with, what you're not going to put up with. And so let's focus on what we're taking away and how this is building and shaping a better version of ourselves, because we spend way too much time focusing on the grief, the loss,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
I should have had, what somebody else had. She didn't deserve what I got. That should have been. That's wasted energy.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
have that much of that anymore. So we're not going to waste it. But focusing
Mhm.
on how these things are shaping who you are today.
Yeah, one of the things that I constantly say is that we don't have losses, we have lessons. And that's what you were just saying. What can
Mhm.
we take away from our life's journey and life path? And I think people need to hear that because so many times people bury themselves in their losses instead of looking at, I learned something in this about myself or about the other person or about the situation. So when we think about that, was there a stretch in your life where you were leading in the dark before anybody else could see it, before anybody else knew that you were who you were? What carries you through your dark seasons and still keeps you leading and on the front line of who you are?
Um, I have a really strong sense that I don't want to disappoint Jesus, right?
Mm,
And so I believe he gave me everything I needed to be successful. The Bible tells me I've already got the victory. All I got to do is walk it out. And
mm,
so when I look back, and it wasn't always a conscious thing,
yeah, yeah,
um, but it was about trying to do the right thing. I made plenty of mistakes, but trying to make the best of those things, right? And every stumbling block and hurdle that I've had to cross, it is was put in place in my life so I could then help somebody else get over that hurdle, right? And I could encourage
mm,
them, which I do very naturally, that whatever we're going through is temporary. Uh,
yeah,
and
yeah,
sometimes it's
yeah.
about making different decisions. I believe successful people are resourceful people.
Mm,
You were not created to live in a silo. And so you have to find where your tribe is. And over time on that journey, that tribe might look different. You might need different things along the journey. Um, and I am so grateful for everything I experienced from birth until today, because it has shaped who I am. And I'm really proud of who she is.
yeah. I think it's important for people to hear something that you said that the tribe could look different because so many times when people quit around us, then we have a tendency to quit or to give up.
Mhm.
But I think, but we don't know who's on the next leg of the journey with us and supposed to take us to the next leg. And so let me ask you this question. And again, we're going to get to some of your counseling thing because we want to know why you chose that. Again, you said your education is definitely in your DNA. Uh, but what about Patrice did she have to bury for a season? Uh, and before you allowed to dig it back up again, what about in your journey did you have to go dark about and then say, now I can go pick that part of me up again?
I think it's just my own image of myself, how I viewed myself, but it was always through the eyes of other people. So either feeling like I wasn't enough, not
Mhm.
good enough, I should be doing what those people over there are doing, right?
Mhm.
And it led me to a life of making some bad decisions. Um, but I guess they were necessary because, again, it shaped who I am today and how I see the world and view myself. But I have not always had that real positive image of myself. I always say anything I have, I worked
Yeah.
really hard for. And if
Mm.
there is a hard way to get something, I know how to do it. I know how to do it the hard way. It never just rolled off and came real easy to me. I had to
Yeah.
work, I had to cry, I mean, everything. And but I do think professionally that makes me much more relatable. I don't sit in front of my clients and my students claiming to be perfect and had a perfect. I don't have perfect children. I didn't have a
Mhm.
perfect marriage. I mean, none
Mhm.
of those things came easy, and that's why I say, everything I do, I'm going to commit to do it in excellence. Um,
Mm.
yeah. And those,
Mm.
and again, when I look back on those dark times, they're not as dark now in
Yeah.
retrospect. They were in the moment. Like sometimes you would think something's going to take you out of here. Like I am not going to survive this right here.
Yeah.
Right. And I look back now and again, focusing on the strengths and what I took for that. Look how courageous you were. Look how,
Come
how
on,
resilient
Skip.
you are. You're an overcomer, right? Like you're built for this. You got this. Um, and sometimes there's things that have happened in my life. I'd rather it happen to me than somebody else that I cared about because
Yeah.
I got
Wow.
this. I built some muscle with that. If you've never experienced loss and grief and never had to overcome, then when life hits you, and it will, then you don't have the skill set to manage that. I got the skill set at a very early age, so I'm good.
So you talked about it at an early age, but you also said to us that it took you until you were well into your 50s to fully be comfortable in your own skin.
Mhm.
What finally cracked you open?
Oh, I can tell. I know exactly where I was sitting when it happened. So during this dissertation process, it's really an unveiling of yourself
Yeah.
and figuring out what you believe about certain things. And my dissertation chair was helping me process all of this. And she looked me dead in the face and she said, Patrice, when did you allow people to rob you of your voice?
Wow.
And I
Yeah.
was like, first of all, don't rob me. To get your own stuff. You could ask me for it, I give it to you, but don't take it from me, right?
Yeah.
And she was talking, my dissertation talked about black women in white spaces for the most part.
Mhm.
And we looked at different generations. And um, I felt so violated. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, hold on. If somebody robbed me of something, I'm going to get my stuff back. Right. And
Yeah.
so from that moment on, I was extremely committed to find my voice. Now, the thing about having a voice, some people have a voice and they never shut up. Right. I don't have that kind of voice. I'm going to be very wise in how I exercise
Mhm.
my voice. Sometimes it's paper and pencil. I can do it in writing, and I've published a lot of stuff. And sometimes it's in podcast, or it's just how I move and how I operate and who I serve.
Yeah.
And so, um, yeah, I remember in that moment, and ever since then, and I share with clients and students and faculty members all the time that you have a voice, exercise it wisely.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, and I think timing is important about a lot of things because, like I said, this is, and I shared, I think before you came on, that according to what the heavens are saying, that the generation, those who between 19, born between 1950 and 1954, are ripe for now walking into leadership. And a lot of people will tell them they're too old, it's time to retire, pass the baton. But we're in a space where we, like I said, owning our voice and owning our voice in our season. Was there ever a time or a voice that said to you, you're too late in your story, or you're too early in your story, or for what you're carrying? And what do you do with that when you hear somebody say, well, you're before your time, or you know what, that was history? What do you do with that?
Something my mom always said is, I can show you better than I can tell you.
Okay.
Right? So
Yeah.
you can think what you want to think, but watch and see. So remember, it took me 9 years to get through undergrad. I
Yeah.
was the oldest person in my graduating cohort. That was me. When I got to the dissertation stage, I was the old lady. I was the
Yeah.
granny, right? And I loved it, but I absolutely walked in leadership. I didn't always want
Mhm.
to, but I walked in leadership in that because I had the work experience, I had true life experience, I had been married, I had kids, I had lived. And a lot of these people are 24, 25 years old. They haven't had a job, never
Yeah.
punched a clock, don't know any of that stuff. And so it really kind of threw me um, into that leadership role, um, being the old lady. And you know, even family members, sometimes people close to you can say things to discourage you. And I
Mhm.
remember after I had my two children, a close family member said to me, well, you might as well just quit striving for these things.
Mhm.
Go get a job, because we don't want to take care of you and your kids on welfare. I could have very easily said, oh, is that what I'm supposed to do? And
Yeah.
instead, I heard my mama in my ear saying, I can show you better than I can tell you.
Yeah.
And I remember crossing that stage and in my head thinking, I wish I could just line up all those people that doubted me
Yeah.
and didn't see in me. Um, and somebody asked me the other day about my mentors and who those people were and why did I attach to them. And it's because they saw me, and they
Yeah.
saw something in me most times I didn't see in myself, right? And through that dissertation process, I had to be encouraged often, because I
Mhm.
would go back to, maybe this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm wasting time, wasting money. Maybe I'll just go do this instead, right? And those mentors said, you got about 10 minutes to sit in this space. And then you go get back in there. You ready to get back to work? Okay, yes, ma'am, I'm ready to go. Let's go. So yeah.
Yeah. So this is, I think, one, encouraging for those who are on the call now and those who will hear it, that mentors are important. Those who give you a limited time to grieve, because people one of the things that my parents used to put in my heart: if you can ever get out of the bed, you'll make it through the day.
Mhm.
And so many people just want to lay down in their problems or their situations, but also looking at how your mentors called you forward. And the question I was going to ask you was, who called you into a room that you didn't think you were ready for, uh, invited you a space that you didn't know, wow, should I go that direction? But tell us a little about how you got invited into some of the places that you're in, and sometimes some of the hesitation that you had before going.
One really clear memory for me, there's several, because I made sure to surround myself with people that see me and encourage
Yeah,
me. But
that's
one that
good.
I
Yeah.
remember is when I first became a counselor. We have a counseling association, the Texas Counseling Association, and we went every year. My professor in grad school made sure we went. Um, and I would go, and I'd go to the breakout sessions and, soaking up as much as I could. But I also was meeting people, because remember, successful people are resourceful people. So I was networking in that process. And I got an invite um, one year after the conference to come sit on an advisory board, because we were revamping the program guide for school counselors. I didn't even know what that meant. I'm like, okay. All right. You want me to come? Are you going to pay for me to come to Austin once a month? I'm there. And we did it for probably a year and a half. And I remember one day I was sitting in there, we're at this big board table, all these counselors sitting around me. And I just looked around the room, and every single one of them was a doctor, but me. And I was like,
Yeah.
"Excuse me, why am I in this room? Like, why am I in this room?" They
Yeah.
said, because we need your voice.
Come on. Yeah.
They said, you go to these conferences, you're in these breakout sessions. You're not just there to get your CEU credits. You're
Yeah.
raising your hand, you're asking questions, you're contributing,
Oh,
and you add a perspective that nobody else is talking about. We
yeah.
need you there. And so, I mean, that has always been one of the most profound examples that I can think of um, with that. And I just, it's kind of how I show up in spaces. If I have something to say, I always have something to say. You know, I try to stifle it sometimes. I try to let other people raise their hand first. But if you're not going to say anything, I certainly will. I have something to say about most things. So,
Okay, so let's go back to your dissertation, because I
okay.
think one, just talking about how you made yourself available in spaces. You're going to ask questions, you're going to raise your hand, you're going to be present. You're not just going into a room and sitting there because I can get so many credits for it. But why did you choose the dissertation you chose?
Because it's my life. It's it's
Yeah.
it's my lived experience, right? And so, and it took me, so I did 2 years of the doctoral program, taking the classes, learning all the
Right.
things. And then I spent the next year rereading everything because I really did. I was going to do African American males, which I have.
Okay.
I'm raising two of those, and them in white spaces, right?
Okay.
But
Yeah.
my whole life has been in white spaces,
Okay.
right?
It's
And
good.
how
Yeah.
that shapes me and how I operate differently. You know, we talk a lot about code switching, and I go to these conferences and these black women would just be mad about code switching. I'm like, I don't even think about it because I've done it my whole life. It's
Yeah.
just been so natural to me. And so I now go out and speak and talk to them about how you make that your superpower,
Come
right?
on.
As
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
mad about it, you use it because now I can float in between conversations. You would know if I was a black woman sitting there talking to a bunch of white women or not, right?
Yeah.
I hear white people. I can hear them. And so um you know, I think it's important. The other thing that you do in that dissertation process is you try to see what's not out there in the literature. What are the scholars not talking about, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they don't really like to talk about us in a positive way. When they
Yeah.
speak about African American people in general, it's usually from a
Mhm.
deficit model.
Yeah.
What we don't have, why we're not as good, and why we struggle with whatever, right? And I said, no, no, we're not going to do that. And so I went to look for those gaps. Nobody was talking about what I was looking at and what that
Mhm.
struggle is like. And I'll tell you just real quick. So I wrote about those struggles that Black women had in higher ed. And I looked at 3 generations. And I was so shocked my second week in higher ed because I was living the same thing those women had lived. Now I
Wow.
did baby boomers, right?
Yeah.
So I'm the
Yeah.
kid of the baby boomers, but we did old baby boomers, right? And so I was like, surely it's different, right? Surely they're not experiencing this, this now, right? And I got in there and got to a meeting, and I spoke up in the meeting. We were on Zoom, and you could have heard crickets for about 3 minutes. Nobody said a
Mhm.
word. I think they were shocked that I even said something. Cool. I told you everywhere I go, I have something to say, right? And so they were just like, and they were looking down. Nobody wanted to look up, and so the leader just kind of went completely over what I said. And then
Yeah.
finally, a lady spoke up and she said, I want to go back to what Dr. Dunn said because I think that was important. And I immediately texted her. I was like, thank you so very much because I didn't know what I was going to say. But I was real
Yeah.
quiet for a long time after that. But it's real. And so one of my committee members one time said, Patrice, you're covering so much territory in this dissertation. Do you sure you don't want to cut it down? I said, well, if I don't do it, who will?
Who will? Yeah.
Because you've had all this time. Y'all could have been out here, all you doctors running around. You could have researched this and talked about this a long time ago. So this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and that's what I did. And I tell my students now, you'll be so confident going into your defense because you
Yeah.
can't question me about my lived experience.
That's
So
it. Yeah.
all I did was confirm it with the scholarship, but I lived it. So I know that I don't have to study. I didn't lose any sleep the night before. I went in there with my head up and my shoulders back and did what I was supposed to do.
So then, what does it cost a woman to keep answering the call decade after decade? What does it cost you to keep getting up and being you and deciding every day, I'm going to be me. I'm going to not only be me, but I'm going to help other people and other women get into that space as well. What's the cost?
Everything costs you something.
Yeah.
And I can speak from personal experience as an African American woman, because I believe if you ask some other women, their perspective might be a little different, but I will speak from my experience.
Yeah.
Um, being my authentic self and who I believe I was created and called to be, oftentimes has cost me relationships,
Yeah.
um, platonic and otherwise. Um, there are a lot of male counterparts that get intimidated um, by my voice.
Yeah.
And that just means you're not for me, right? And the camp don't
Yeah.
know how to be supportive of that. Um, but I have crafted this leadership enough to know when to push and when to pull. And
Yeah.
so, I know that I can be a lot sometimes. I know I can be very vocal. I know I can get in people's face and talk with them. And then I know there's times I can just sit back and watch and I can just keep them wondering. Right. And so there's very few times that I have to bite my tongue.
Mhm.
Because that's just not who I'm going to be. And I don't want to ever set that precedent for people. Um, but I think the biggest
Mhm.
thing for me has been relationships. Some people don't know how to handle it. It sometimes it bumps up against people because they're not sure who they are.
True.
Um,
Yeah.
and I will tell you, I find more of that with male companionship than I
Mhm.
do with females. Now, there are females that can be intimidated by me. I don't know why, but they can be. But I know how to turn that conversation around
Right.
to encourage them. Like, let's peel back the layers of the onion and find out why we're bumping heads the way we are. And who are you called to be? Because there's enough space in this world for me to be me authentically 100%, and there's room for you to be you. We just might not be able to be in the exact same space doing it. And that's okay. I'm okay with that. So I've learned not to be offended by it. Um, but um,
Mhm.
the cost to me is sometimes it's lonely,
Yeah. Yeah.
and sometimes you're just not understood, being misunderstood. And I don't like that at all either.
Yeah, like you said at the beginning of that question, there's always a price to pay for something, and
Mhm.
this what I think a lot of women give up on or don't realize. The greater cost is when you cannot be your authentic self.
That's right.
At the end of the day, you still have to look at yourself in the mirror, and so it does cost that. Let me ask you this: what are you building right now that you can only build because you've been doing what you've been doing so long? Uh, what are you doing?
You mean program wise, or
Or just life-wise, I mean,
I
and
tell
it could
you
be
what,
yeah.
the 60s are an interesting place to be.
Yeah,
And what I think about often
yeah,
when I embark on the work that I'm called to do is legacy.
okay, yeah,
What, how do I want to be remembered? What,
mhm,
do I want people to take away, and not just take away and tuck it away? I want you to take away and do something with it. I want you to
yeah,
say, hey, this is what Patrice was doing. I want to pick this up and run with it so we can keep this dream and this hope alive. Right. Um,
mhm,
and that's part of the reason why I train counselors, because
okay,
I'm
yes,
super passionate about there being counselors that get it, that have that sixth sense and can tap into people in a way that they didn't even realize that's why they showed up. um,
yeah,
and so I have fought the Lord on some things for a couple of years now, and that's how the Become Her kind of came to be.
Yeah.
And again, it was my transition into the 60s that said, hold on, there's some stuff missing that women need. And we don't ever have spaces created for us to openly share, not
That's it.
feel like
Yeah.
we're going to be judged. Um, and and women can be catty. Like, we're not
Yeah.
always the most fun people to be around sometimes, especially if we feel threatened by people, right? And so finally surrendered and told the Lord, I will create a space where
Yeah.
women can become who you called them to be from the very beginning. They just
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
distracted. There's so many distractions. But yeah, that's what I legacy is going to be my big one.
Yeah, and when you talk about the Become Her and that which you are building and built to help reconnect women with their authentic self, it is helping them understand their ikigai before everything piled on life and everything else. Uh, how did you get to that space? What expectation did you have to create for yourself before you could build that platform for other people or other women?
It is about this internal knowing that I have about who I am. And we talk about being role models, right?
Mhm.
And I don't operate under the umbrella of Become Her thinking that I've arrived and have it all figured out, because most of my topics that I come up with are because I'm
Yeah,
struggling with it myself, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
we talked about empty nesters, finding your
Mhm.
identity. Who are you when the kids are gone? You may or may not still be married, but who are you then? Like,
Mhm.
strip all of those titles away, those
That's good.
expectations
Yeah.
that other people have imposed upon you. Who are you?
Mhm.
Right. And so a lot of women have deferred dreams to do things and become things. And I say it's never too late. I am a living example of that. And so I think I had to just learn myself, figure out who I
Mhm.
am. We talk a lot in the counseling field about being very self aware, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And so if you can start to embrace that and put words to it, then you have some wheels on it. Now you can do something with it. You can decide if you want to hang on to that, or do you want to reshape that, and find this identity that's probably hidden in there somewhere.
Wow. Well, again, this is the Deborah Table Conversations with Women Who Lead. It's not about just women that are talking about leading, it's women that are actually leading and paying the cost to lead. And we have with us Dr. Patrice Dunn, who is somewhere in the great state of Texas that she just loves. She is Texas, Texas. Now, she wasn't born in Texas, but she loves that. A couple of things before we transition. Now, if someone has a couple of questions you want to ask, you can put those in the chat, and our moderator will pull them to the screen. We'll give you an opportunity to ask her a question if you want to. But I wanted really to ask you, Dr. Dunn, if a woman watching tonight or whenever they watch it sees themselves standing at the same threshold that you once stood, the one of, do I go back to school? What do I do with my family? Do I really want to pay the price for what it's going to cost me to do that? What would you say to her?
I believe that you identify your purpose, and you can do those things as long as it leads you to that purpose. um
Mhm. Yeah.
there's a greater purpose than what you're doing in the moment, because I'm telling you, I quit the dissertation process probably 197 times, right? And I mean, I was done. I'm like, this is not it. This is not for the faint of heart. It's about to take me out, you know. Um, but I knew I had a greater purpose. My mom was a big motivation for that because she believed in me and thought that that was something I should do. I just didn't realize it at the time. But I knew that, um, where those initials didn't mean a lot to me, they were going to mean a lot to people that were going to put me in
Yeah.
spaces and put me on those stages where I could minister to the people that I was called to work with, right? And so find your purpose and then live it out loud,
Yeah.
laughing, having fun. I did a podcast this morning on, are we having fun yet? Like, this
Yeah.
is life. God, when babies are born, we say that's such a blessing. Where
Yeah.
did we lose that? Where did we get up and now we hate Mondays and everything is just, I don't want to do this and I'm not making enough money. I don't like my boss. Where did we lose the fun?
Yeah.
God has blessed us with life. Remember, some people didn't get up this morning, right?
That's
And
right.
so you
Yeah.
were blessed with today. Go out and enjoy what you're doing. And so I say spend some time with yourself, find out what those things are to bring you joy. I speak on joy often. That thing in the midst of the storm
Yeah.
where you can have joy.
Yeah.
And I've settled in that place and I'm super comfortable. I'm real happy there that I know that life is going to happen around me. It's going to dish me out cards that I don't want to have to deal with, but I'm going to have joy while I'm doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, we're looking to see if there were questions, but I want to say this that one of the things, my life's quote is life without purpose is an early death. I believe that if you're not, don't know why you're here, you're dying while you're here. And so moving into that space and then enjoying it. It is, and what I see and hear from you is that energy that when you love what you do, it's not work and
Right.
and so making life about doing what I love to do, and I'm a proponent of that. I love what I do, and so I don't go to work every day. I go to me every day,
Mhm.
and I hear that coming from you that this is a life of, like you said, of joy because you are touching lives. You're helping so many people, and another thing that you said was sometimes people don't understand why we get the initials. It really is for somebody else. It
Mhm.
is not for us. It opens doors that
Absolutely.
can't happen if you don't have those.
Absolutely.
And so I want to personally applaud your process,
Well, thank
applaud that what you're doing in the earth and in the body of Christ, especially for women and especially for Black women in white spaces, because whether women know it or not, it's increasingly becoming more of that. Uh, I was looking at a statistic the other day that over 600,000 Black women have lost their job
you.
in the last year and a half.
Yep.
600,000 Black women, and what that has done to our communities and what that's doing in our schools. And so to be able to have a voice and to have a place and to be able to enjoy it. So we want to thank you definitely for being a part of this conversation, for being a woman that leads and that has continued to lead. And again, we want your information. We'll put it in on the broadcast, how they can reach out to you. And who knows, we'll be seeing you soon in other spaces and places. But
Man.
again, thank you for being a part of that. In closing, is there anything else that you want to say to the women that are listening?
Oh, I'm full right now. I just want all the women to go out and be amazing on purpose every day. Just get up and go be amazing. And be careful who you let in your ear because
Yeah,
they all don't have your best interest at heart. But if you believe it, you'll be fine. Go be
yeah,
amazing on purpose. Absolutely.
yeah. Yeah, again, well, thank you, Dr. Patrice Dunn. We are so
Thank
glad to have had
you.
this conversation with
I
you.
am too.
And as we leave the Deborah table and as we have taken our seat, we leave going to be amazing. Have a great day and God bless you.
God bless.
Bless.